I'm Al McFarland. Welcome to the Conversation with Al McFarland. Thank you for being here. We're glad you're here. We're glad to be here with you. Today is Friday, February 20th, 2026. And as always on Fridays, it's the Healing Circle. We do this in conjunction with and under the leadership of Dr. Bravada Garrett Akinsanya. She's the leader at the African American Child Wellness Institute. And one of the things we try to start this meeting when she's here in particular with a certain protocol, one that grounds us, that centers us, and gets us set for robust conversation. Before I pass the talking stick to Dr. B, we call her Dr. B, I want to invite you who may be connecting on any of the social media platforms, Black Press USA YouTube, Insight News YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook to shout us out. Let us know where you are. Put your name and location in the chat. Raise a question, ask a question, join the conversation. In the course of the presentation, we'll put up a QR code. And if you want to be on screen with us in the conversation, we invite you to do so. So you'll see how to do that. But most of all, we want you to subscribe, like, and share. We're trying to build our subscription base and our connection, our engagement. And you can help us by doing just that. Go to, hopefully through the YouTube Insight News MN. That's the one we want you to focus on. YouTube Insight News MN. Become a subscriber, like, and share. And like I said, let people know that we're having this conversation right now. With that, Dr. B, my friend, so good to see you again. Let's initiate the program with a protocol that centers us for an important conversation.
Thank you so much, Baba Al. What we're going to do is kind of get centered and prepare our minds, our bodies, and our spirit to be present in this conversation. And we use an African libation to begin our show. And in this space, there are different things we need to do. So I'm going to ask the audience to please join me by sitting comfortably in a chair or a couch or wherever you are, and just inhaling deeply, exhaling, inhaling, and exhaling. I ask you to look to your right and notice you're secure and safe. Look to your left, once again with a breath of security and safety. You may look behind you to assure that you have a sense of safety behind you, and in front of you is the space of healing and safety. As we sit in this circle, we first want to begin to acknowledge that we are sitting here because we stand on the shoulders of ancestors and elders who prayed our way, worked our way, and hoped our way into existence. So as you sit comfortably, just notice your body, your feet on the floor, and you may even feel the presence of the names you call in your head, in your heart, as you say, Ashe and thank you, Ashe and thank you for what they gave you and who you are right now. And as you continue to sit in a circle, we not only honor our elders, we honor our ancestors, for our ancestors are the shoulders on which our elders stood. And as we sit here honoring our elders and our ancestors, we also notice that all of us are still connected. And especially honoring our ancestors is because they are closest to our Creator. So as we sit here prepared for a discussion that may go deeply and hit us hard and take us to a space of knowing and growing, just inhale again and exhale. Inhale again and exhale. And now as you sit, recognizing that African people are an orderly people. And as we sit there, I want you to imagine that we're in a circle and no one in the circle is top or bottom, no hierarchy. All of us have equal access to the center, which is the place of power and voice. And in this circle, we each ask for what we call a virtual talking stick. And it goes from one person to the next in this circle. And if the spirit so moves, even if it's not your turn, you can ask for the stick and it will be granted. So with all these things, we say Ashe, Ashe, Ashe,
Ashe,
Ashe, and
Ashe.
thank you to our Creator. And I'll give the talking stick to Baba Al.
Thank you, Dr. B. Well, we've got a great program today, and Lisa, you're curating these programs for the Friday Healing Circle, and I'd like you to invite and present our guest presenter today, a wonderful and powerful voice for healing, for health, and for development of our people and the community. So I'm going to pass the talking stick to Lisa Bryant. Lisa.
Yes, I'm very pleased to introduce Dr. Grace Toto. Dr. Grace is a physician leader and founder of the Minneapolis Health Clinic, where she integrates primary care, wellness, and medically supervised weight loss to support long-term health and longevity. She is a champion for women in midlife and beyond. She leads the Minneapolis Health Clinic Wellness with a focus on prevention, metabolic health, and sustainable lifestyle change. She also serves as board chair for Toto Health Equity, which advances access to care locally and globally. I also want to note that Dr. Toto is the founder, medical director, and CEO of the Minneapolis Health Clinic. And she is an author. She's written 2 books. One is called From Obesity to Wellness, and the other book is called Bridging the Gap in Healthcare. Dr. Toto, not only do I welcome you, but everyone here welcomes you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Thank you, Dr. Toto.
Thank you so much. I know it's been a lot of back and forth for us, and I apologize. I have a bit
No
of a crazy
problem. You're
schedule, but
doing it.
I'm
You're
glad we
working at
made
the
it.
clinic.
Yeah,
And
and
you're also,
I'm
aren't you
very
also working, Dr. Toto, aren't you also working at North
Fairview.
Memorial?
I do work with Fairview. I'm with
Oh, Fairview? Yeah.
yep,
So
I'm
you're
with St.
busy.
John's Hospital, and I work nights.
Oh my
I cover
goodness.
their night shifts sometimes, and so yeah, that's another layer to my schedule. So it gets a little
Yes.
crazy, but I'm happy to be here, and thank you for tracking me down, Lisa. Very honored to be here. Very honored to be here. Thank you.
Go ahead and tell your story. I'm
Well,
very interested in learning about your work and also your discussion of cardiovascular disease and how it might impact dementia.
okay. So I know that one of the things that you wanted us to do today is talk about dementia and how it impacts the African community.
Exactly.
Yeah. So dementia is actually a big problem right now in the US. The elderly are obviously living longer, and so it's just one of those things that will come up at some point. Now, in the African American community, unfortunately, due to things like lack of education and a few things which I'll go into, sometimes it is diagnosed late in our environment. Now, on a population level, with ages over 65 years, we'll say maybe about 1 in 9 people probably have dementia. Overall, it translates to about maybe 6 million or so people with dementia. Now, out of that number, African Americans are more likely to have the condition than other race, other people with different races. And the reason being that there are certain lifestyles that we probably don't get into earlier in life that ultimately leads to that at a later year or a later age. Now, dementia by itself, the presentation is it's a cumulative endpoint of various medical problems and various causes that ultimately lead to memory loss. So the simple definition is a loss in memory, and then this is like really to the layman's definition, a loss in memory to the point where you cannot function on your own and you lose the ability to do your activities of daily living. There are obviously several stages and several layers and several things that leads to that. We are focusing on cardiovascular diseases today. And so I will start by saying that some of the things that ultimately, or cardiovascular or risks that ultimately lead to dementia would be diseases like diabetes, strokes, heart disease, high blood pressure, cholesterol plays its role. Those are some of the medical conditions that could potentially lead to that. Chronic kidney disease, which is also, I think my camera is off. I'm not sure why. Is it from your end or from my end?
Yes, it is. It's off on this end as well.
Okay. Let's see. Okay.
There we go. There, you're back.
Yeah. Chronic kidney disease is also something that ultimately would contribute to that. Now, through various pathways, and it's mainly because it increases risk of cardiovascular disease in general. Now, when we talk about dementia, there are various types, and it can be classified based on their etiology. Alzheimer's is the commonest, and it forms about maybe 60 to 70% overall. And the way that is diagnosed is there are special proteins that are deposited in the brain that is associated with that particular type. But there are there's also vascular dementia, which that's the second largest, which comes about due to various vascular injuries, which is contributed by the stroke and the diabetes and the kidney disease and all the various things that I talked about. Now, it's important that we acknowledge that because about 40% of some of that is modifiable if you intervene early or you stick to a particular lifestyle. Now, there are certain other types of strokes which may be related to maybe infection, or it may be related to your genetic predisposition. Those you just have to know and maybe intervene to see how best you can set yourself up so that you're either aware of it when it's coming and find the necessary help. Medicine has come far these days, so there's always research. And so if you are educated or you make the intentional decision to make yourself know about these things and your risk factor, you can always seek the help that you need through the research. People are always looking to advanced medicine. And so I'm bringing this up because the educational component and you setting yourself up such that you make it a point to know about your risk factors is always important on that journey. Okay. Now, are there specific questions as we proceed, or should I just keep talking?
What would you suggest, Dr. B?
Okay. Well,
I think you should keep talking.
Okay.
And if you can take some interruptions, then that'd be helpful, if that's okay with you.
Okay. So so let's start from when we feel like a family member maybe has dementia, or we start noticing the signs and symptoms. It starts with forgetfulness. So, like I said, it's memory loss. There are screening questions that we use to kind of get a sense of where people are. And sometimes that can be, depending on what your level of education is, some people who are very smart, they are able to hide it. But it will definitely ultimately present with, I don't remember what I was going to say. I don't remember today's date. I don't remember, my date of birth. You forget people's names. You start doing things and you don't finish, which, I mean, there are various things that will also, present like that, and it tends to confound things. But those are the common things. In some of them, your handwriting may change, like even Parkinson's, you have a certain type of facial expression. Sometimes people also get very paranoid. That actually tends to present in the later stages, but paranoia is one of the things. And then amidst all that, they become argumentative. So there are personality changes that may come up, so sometimes people get lost for routes that they've been traveling several times. They may drive and not be able to find their way back. And so those are subtle things that will start showing up in people. Obviously, during life transitions, and I think that the extremes will probably get you there quickly, the diagnosis quickly. But I mean, there are things like during menopause, there's also like you start a sentence and you're like, oh, what was I saying again? Those things show up during menopause, and it may not be it, but it's just you kind of have to pay attention to these things. But I think if you are concerned, the person that will be able to diagnose you start with your primary care physician. Definitely let them know what your concerns are. And there are standardized risk stratified tests that they can take you through. And so with that, based on your score, they can, and the things that you're saying to them, they can either work things up to make sure there are no metabolic causes, or not, maybe there aren't even other things that is presenting as a stroke, as a dementia. So they will eliminate what they need to eliminate. Now, sometimes severe things such as even hearing loss, people who don't hear well, it could falsely present like they have some memory problems, or even depression, severe depression. So it's important that we don't jump to conclusion. It's important that you go through the right channels. In the hospital, if somebody comes and we suspect severe cognitive impairment, sometimes it starts with the occupational therapist or even the speech therapist. They take you through these standardized tests. And then the next step will be, maybe we have to do head imaging to make sure we're not missing any structural abnormalities. And then there are neuropsychiatric tests that can also do further testing. And so we go through various steps to make sure we're landing at the right diagnosis. Sometimes people shy away from these, but it's important that we get the right diagnosis so we can help you. And then once we've identified the right diagnosis, there are medications these days to help you slow the disease. And so various medications will help slow the disease. Various others will also help control some of the side effects or complications that go with the disease. For instance, there's a high predisposition to depression, so that, and anxiety, those things can be managed. And then as things progress, the paranoia can be managed with certain medications. Then also the aggressiveness. Some people towards the end become very aggressive, and so that can also be managed. Now, with all of this, we shouldn't forget the people that are, or the impact on the community and the household. Starting with the common things. Obviously, when you have dementia and you're still employable, you're still the breadwinner. For some people, it starts early. So you lose your income because you can't sustain your occupation. If this is, especially if you're in a profession that requires, your cognition. Even if it is a labor-intensive one, it still becomes difficult because safety becomes an issue, And so obviously you lose income, which will ultimately affect the people around you if you are the breadwinner. That's one. The other impact would be the people that are taking care of you. Now, there's such a thing as caregiver fatigue or caregiver burnout, which is real because it gets to a point where the demented people need almost 24-hour care. And with that, they need the supervision. Sometimes caregivers have to stop working themselves to take care of their loved ones. And so that becomes an issue. Sleep is impacted, there's the financial restraints that the condition brings. There's the medical bills that could potentially pile up. And so it becomes very stressful. Now, I'm originally from Ghana. In Ghana, we don't do the nuclear. I mean, things are changing now, but for the longest time, it's like an extensive family. And so everybody chips in and we rotate and you can care for family members. Even in Ghana, things are changing now to the point where they are embracing external help, because most of my age group, they are also educated and they are working and they have kids. So you can't suddenly be taking care of parents. I mean, we chip in, we love to take care of our parents, but you do need help at some point, And
Grace,
so,
could I interrupt you for just a
yes.
moment?
Yeah.
Because you've said 2 or 3 very important things that I think we need to continue to delve into. One of them that you talked about is the stress that's on the caregivers. And what comes to mind as soon as I hear it is, I think, and it could be my own bias, but it seems like more women are the caregivers than are men. Have you found that? That's issue number one. Just let me see if you can answer that. Have you seen that? Or
Well,
not?
I mean, historically, women are the caregivers, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think from experience, even my household, if things were to happen, it would fall on me, the woman, because I'm the caregiver. But I think that I don't want to say that it's mostly wives caring for their husbands, but that tends to be the case. Or even when
Daughters for their father.
even when there are multiple kids, sometimes it ends up falling on the laps of women, and I think that it's just that's just the system. It's just been a systemic expectation. I think we are the caregivers. Obviously, things are changing, and Gen Z is rewording things and all of that. But that's what I tend to see as well. The responsibility tends to land on the females, but not always.
Yeah. So then that leads to question number 2. I just got to hear this. So what I see is when males are the caregivers, I've seen them tend to be okay with helping their dads or men. But if it's a woman, like a mom or an aunt or somebody like that, it seems like a lot of the men that I've seen do that work, they had to still get a female assistant to do whatever it is, like clean or whatever it is that was needed. And so when we talk today about the health issues, and I talked today about that connection between health and your own cardiology, that part of your body. It
Your
seems
heart.
like, thank you, sis. It seems like there is a reluctance on the part of women to look at our hearts as a problem, and yet a propensity and larger proportion of men are okay with checking their hearts out. And so I'm bringing this up because I've had in my history as a psychologist family members who started, when mom starts getting sick, the men who are quote unquote caregiving, they will take the money part, but the sisters whoever is in the family, the sisters are the ones charged with cooking, cleaning. I'm just saying, it's just some kind of diverse traditional roles that happen. And just like you were saying earlier, they get tired.
Oh
You
yeah.
get tired of doing that. So, and when you're talking about heart, and I know women can have heart attacks. I know
Oh yeah.
many women who've had heart attacks, and I know men don't always have heart attacks. They can, but they don't always. So, how do you help? Now we see these two sets of people with two agendas, and one of them, if you ask me, has an easy agenda, and the other one has the harder one. I'm just saying because I
Well,
take care of my mom, and so
you know, Dr. B, I think it all boils down to education. I think it all boils down to education. The community needs to know that, first of all, this dementia that we're talking about, it affects men, it affects women. I think we need to understand that as a result of whoever has disease, the other partner is not immune to the stress. And that stress will also predispose them to various medical conditions, which may ultimately take them down, even sometimes sooner than the demented patient they are taking care of.
that's
So
right.
I think that we need to recognize the effect that whatever condition we're dealing with is having in the household and on both places and on both individuals, and both of them need to find a fine balance where everyone takes care of themselves, and prevention is always better than cure. And so I think that if you're young, and I mean, I hope that there are young people listening to this too, I think that the best time to prevent all of this is 20s, 30s. You get to know your body, make healthy choices, try to adopt a healthy lifestyle, be intentional about your choices. And I could expand a little bit more on healthy lifestyle, because if you leave yourself to the point where you are becoming reactive, it might be too late on so many levels. You know, it might be too late because one, you may not have set preventive measures in place. Two, you may not even have set up yourself financially for the support that you may need. And if you try to get long-term care at that time, it will be too expensive because you have comorbidities already. And so when you are young is when you really try to build yourself up and make your life decisions and project yourself to the future where you want to live healthy, you know. So you avoid unnecessary risks, not in terms of in terms of lifestyle, that is. I mean, you don't need to smoke, you don't need to drink excessive alcohol, you know. There's some things that you can do. Try to get your sleep. Now when we talk about healthy lifestyle choices, I'm talking about putting the right things in your body, so eating healthy. Now when I do weight loss, what I tell my patients is, when you divide your plate into four, your proteins should be palm size, your vegetables should be palm size, and those are the important things. Your carbs should be fist size, and your fruits should be fist size or less. Actually, your carbs should be fist size or less. Now, when you start eating, eat the proteins first, then your vegetables. Those things fill your stomach. Those things activate the natural GLP-1s in the body. You know, the food stays in the stomach longer, and so you don't get you're fuller for a longer time. And then the blood glucose slowly gets into your bloodstream. You don't get an insulin surge, and then you don't get extra fatty deposition.
Wow.
Now, part of lifestyle, at least 150 minutes of exercises every day, or at least 150 minutes a week. You can split it how you want, but do something, be active, moderate exercise, do something to raise your heart. And it may be just brisk walking, it may be lifting 10 to 20 pound weight loss. This could even be a weight if it's filled with water. Like, you don't have to go expensive, you know. And there are videos on YouTube that will show you a whole body workout. Do something. That's the important part. Hydration. If you're hydrating, you should be able to protect your kidneys to a point. Everybody needs 8 cups of an 8-ounce water, you know, so at least 64 ounces of water, which is free a day. That's enough hydration for you. Now, if you have things like heart failure or diseases that leads to fluid accumulation, definitely talk to your doctor, because they will always have like certain goals for you. So you have to work with your primary care physician. We all need a community that will activate us. So that's actually an important part of wellness. Mental health needs to be addressed. Sleep needs to be addressed, which is about, everybody needs about what, 8 to 10 or 7 to 9. If you're getting less than 6 hours, that's like in the gray area where you know that you probably need to check yourself. But there are also various apps these days that will tell you where you're at. I choose the Aura Ring, which tells me my sleep, and I've done this for about 4 years now, because I work in the hospital, and that has, it tends to affect your circadian rhythm. And so there are, in the past, there were days when I'm surviving on 3 hours over 24 hours. That's just not, it's not okay. And so over several years, you will have cognitive problems, and again, that's an occupational risk. But if it persists, you can easily get dementia, because it's not good for the body, and the sleep deprivation and all that does a number on you, which ultimately will have long-term effects. So all I'm saying is we need to educate our community, help them make the right choices, and with doing the intentional things, that could potentially decrease some predisposition to dementia at a much older age. There are puzzles that you can do to stimulate your brain, keep your brain in active, and Dr. B can tell us a little bit more about that later. Also, to plan for the future, for which financial wellness is also extremely important. There are things like insurance policies that you can take to protect you at that time. There's long-term care. Now, I know that we work hard, and we know that we expect to get some Medicare and all of that. It's never enough. Technically, when people need coverage, and there's definitely some truth to it, but there may be a few things that maybe a social worker will be able to tell you more. 100 days of payment is what Medicare, I think, will cover. And sometimes after that, you have to do some spend down, and when the elder care gets to, and there's the burnout sets in, and you need like a personal care assistant and all of that, there's so much that it will cover. There are limitations, what I'm saying. There are limitations on how much Medicare will actually cover. And so to give you that flexibility, you should invest in long-term care at an early age, at an age where you are relatively healthy and the premium is affordable. So that when you actually need it, you're not rushing to go find it, because the premium may be expensive at that time. So all that should go into your planning. Case in point, we were at the part where, I guess, providers or the family members start to get burnout. Now, when this tends to happen, there are also resources in the community that can help family members. Sometimes some certain health insurance policies may provide what we call the respite care. So you can take them to like a facility where they can spend some time there, and then you get a break. There are also daycare systems that do elder daycare, and so they will care for your family member and take them out of the hospital a little bit so that you get breathing room. But first of all, the caregivers even need to admit that they are at the point where they need the help. Some family members fight this, some people stay in denial, but we just need to appreciate that there's a high likelihood that will happen, and it does happen. It's expected to happen because it's a big stress. Becomes a big stress for the family. And so we need to plan for that in the care of a newly diagnosed demented patient, or when dementia is diagnosed. In the care coordination, you need to make sure that systems are set up in place for that as well. if you like
Dr. Grace,
I'll talk a lot. Yeah.
let me jump in with a couple of questions. This is
Yeah.
a fascinating presentation. Thank you
Yes.
Oh, you're
so
very welcome.
very much. And I'm trying to filter all of your words, your advice and direction through my own personal lived experience. And I call myself a very average, ordinary person. So as I sit here and speak, to my right at my back door, there's a sign. I've said this before, so I don't mind saying it again. And the sign put up by my wife, it says, "Do you have your keys? Do you have your wallet? And do you have your phone?" And so my family is watching out for me because I'm getting old, number one. But I know that with getting old, there also is the risk of dementia. I know that, I believe, in part because in my family, people have had dementia, though previous guests have said that hereditary is not an overriding factor. It can be a factor, but it simply does make me aware of the experience of both dementia and caregiving required. Both my mom and grandmom and a couple of cousins and aunts all experienced dementia as they aged and before they died. So I have that experience. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. Dr. B, you talked about the male and female, the weight. And as you were saying that, that's kind of what happened in my family, where when my mom had been taken care of by my older sister, I'm number 2 of 12. My older sister took care of my mom for years and years and years. But when her health continued to fail, in fact, my sister had a heart attack, had heart failure, and died, right? And we say, and she feels that part of it was the toll of providing that day-to-day 24-hour care to our mother, right? And so what we did as a family is the brothers and other sisters agreed to and supported my mom moving to Florida, where our youngest brother lived, who had an extra place and could be next door to her. And then we also allowed for and asked and invited and supported a sister who actually moved to live with my mother, another one to give her full-time 24-hour care. But there was a backup system. The sister was there in-house with the mom. The brother and his wife and family were next door. So they were there in the community. And the thing is, was in Florida, not in Kansas City where it gets cold and you have the winters, not in Minnesota, cold and winters. And that lasted. But the point I'm making is that Dr. B, the guys in the family said, let's sort of organize, the business of it. But it all fell on the sisters to do the actual day-to-day care. And then after a number of years, when my mom and sister wanted to move back to Minnesota, they did come back, and still she stayed with my sisters until she died. So that's a real thing. And so I wonder, Dr. Grace, about our traditional and ancient systems for dealing with conditions like dementia. We may not have called it that. We may have called it something else 100 years ago or 500 years ago. Do you have any idea how in the cultural experience that we come out of as African people, we handle things like discomfort, dis-ease, including mental health challenges, including what we now know as dementia? I'll finish this long question by saying, given that, what do you see with the advance of science, medicine, knowledge, education, will the future bring for our capacity to live healthier and knowledgeable lives because we have more information and we have more resources? Where do you see this going? So I'll stop there. Thank you so much for listening to my long question.
Yeah. Well, so I think historically there has been a lot of denial, in African Americans. It's why they present late, but there's also obviously there's trust in the system, and so they don't even want to show up for an assessment, and whatever you're telling me, I don't believe you type thing. Mm-hmm. Mental health, obviously, there's also denial and the concern for stigma, you know. So there are deep reasons why sometimes we show up late, deep systemic reasons, and rightfully so, because there are reasons why people may or may not be justified by their beliefs. But we all know that our history has put us into a certain place, and because of that we've been reactive, and we made certain decisions to self-preserve, which sometimes the self-preservation may go against us. So it is what it is. But I think that moving forward, like I said earlier, the technology has advanced. The diagnosis can be done much earlier. There are certain institutions that are actively doing research, like I said, even for Alzheimer's, which is like the commonest and forms about 70% of the disease. There are, of the presentation dementia, there are certain institutions that are doing active research to identify that protein that is deposited in the brain. And so if you have that protein in your bloodstream or whatever, then you have an increased predisposition to it. Obviously, this hasn't hit mainstream yet, and so this is not something that insurance is actively trying to pay for it. They are not actively saying that, okay, go for this test. Like, I'm internal medicine, and so we go by the United States Preventive Task Force's recommendation. And at this point, there isn't like a standard recommendation to do those tests during wellness. But if you're somebody that's proactive about your wellness, there are genetic tests, or if you have concerns, there are genetic tests that you can do. Like somebody like me, I always have partnerships with people who are at the forefront, because I'm not necessarily managed by a body. I have my own practice. And so, so long as I'm doing this within the legalities of healthcare and within the recommended practice of my boards, there are some things that I can do. For instance, I partner with some labs that may have FDA clearance that could run genetic tests. So if you think your predisposition is high, there are certain wellness facilities that will run those labs for you. Then you have that information and you can make informed changes to yourself, and you can put yourself on that intentional pathway that I talked about. So again, that's technology these days helping you. In terms of supplements, I mean, I'm not really sure what our grandfathers were using to prevent dementia per se, but there are definitely lots of supplements out there that is that helps with the brain. At a certain age, there are things like, these days they promote things like NAD, and there's fish oil, and there's certain fruits blueberries that will, that will help with brain function. Again, you always need to try to, exercise and try to keep yourself lean, which will decrease your predisposition to things like high blood pressure, cholesterol. Because once you hit that obesity zone, which can be achieved sometimes it's not even your fault. It may be that you were involved in an accident and you just can't exercise anymore, and so you unfortunately pile on the extra fat, but then that's when you have to be very cautious about what you eat, But yeah, and so there's technology that can help you with the recent diagnosis, because all the diagnostic tests, that's part of the new advancements that's come up, right? There's care that can be personalized based on your genetics. That's also personalized. And then there's apps that you can wear to track, your wellness, and it will advise you on where you are at, your sleep deprivation, and, help you make informed choices.
Well, let me say one thing about sleep. This is another putting myself out, and it shows bad thinking. I'll admit that. So when I finally, after years and years and years, decided to go get tested for sleep apnea, and obviously, I was like the classic overweight, obese, too much alcohol, and also a workaholic, wanting to work. And so the consequences, I'm driving around asleep, dangerous, and I feel so bad now because I could have harmed my family, other people innocent, by my ignorance and willfulness of not wanting to admit and address and face the danger that my condition made of me. And so I get the diagnosis, I get the CPAP, and I discover, man, this is wonderful because I'm getting real good sleep right now. I can't do without it. But when I started, doctor, I said, oh boy, now I can probably sleep 2 hours a night and have that equal a regular 8-hour night of sleep and keep charging. That's bad thinking.
It is bad thinking. You still need the amount of sleep.
But that's how I thought. So how do we get to educate, the foolish in us and among us to arrive at sensibility?
Yeah. So I think historically, and if we are limiting ourselves to Africans, historically, we've been forced to adopt that survival mode. I think we just need to recognize that we're human. We're human, and everything that has a tensile strength can break at some point. And so it gets to a point that even if you feel like mentally you are okay, I don't think you should trust yourself. You are human. And so many things can go wrong on so many different levels that we're not immune to getting exhausted and getting the stress coming out. If it's not, it can show up in various things. It can show up with irritability. It can show up with you sleeping behind the wheel. It can show up with mistakes at work, So you need to recognize that there's so much that the body can take. And we need to be kind to our bodies, Self-care, Dr. B, I'm sure, will tell us. We need to take care of ourselves, and we can only give back what we've taken into our bodies, so we need to work on our wellness and then be able to care for the people around us. If like you were trying to make money for your family, you need your health to be able to do that and give a maximal output. And so at some point you can't really trust, especially if you're in that high exertional field that requires you to function. You need to get something that will help you track. And these days, fortunately for us, there are apps even on your iPhones that will help you, tell you how you're doing, how well you slept, what's your stress level. And if the stress becomes too much, it will give you pop-ups that you need to calm down. And if it means doing breathing exercises, or it means giving yourself 10-minute break to go for a walk, that will definitely reset. Or if it means you need to shut down the system, sometimes a 30-minute power nap can help, but it has to be something, a practice that you put on yourself. Like it's intentional. And I keep using the word intentional because work isn't going to tell you stop and go take a break. No, you have to pay attention and listen to your body and do what is right for you. So I
just want to jump in here as a psychologist and to say this one thing, that the reason we stick with old things is we actually have what they call it's like an allergy to change. We're allergic to change. It makes us scared. There's a whole lot. There really is even research on looking how we are allergic to change. And so one of the things that I think you were just pointing out is one of the key pieces is about being in charge.
Right.
We don't want somebody to be in charge of us. So we have to learn how to be in charge of ourselves. And we have to put those self-statements in, like, I guess I could go ahead and sleep 8 hours. Or, well, I guess I could decide to eat this banana instead of that chocolate cake. And you have to literally start learning to put that sentence in your head. Right. Well, I guess I could. And when you get to, well, I guess I could, you're telling yourself, it is not going to kill me this one time to go to sleep on time. And then every time you do it, it'll get to be a habit. So I just want to jump in because she's really describing how critical that is to our overall health.
Mhm.
And just say, if we think about that course from wellness to having dementia, perhaps this could be a buffer by learning how to say, well, I guess I could eat that salad instead of that cake. Or guess I could go for a walk, even if it's 30. I could volunteer to walk the dog this time. I mean, we have to create that negotiation in our society.
And yeah, and nobody's saying make yourself miserable and eat foods you don't like. But if it's going to be something that's not healthy, it shouldn't be every day.
There you go.
You can give permission to maybe indulge one day in a week, but the 6 days, make it intentional and make sure whatever you're doing, if it's really bad, do moderation of it. But for the most part, try to be good. You know what I'm saying?
A person in the chat left a note, and I'm not sure why or the meaning of the note. It simply said cayenne and ginger. Get organic powder, ginger, and cayenne powder in bulk. Now, I don't know if that was someone trying to sell cayenne and pepper or cayenne and ginger, or were they suggesting that that's one of the things we can do to support our health? I don't know what that means, but are there things, you mentioned blueberries. What other things are there in the food system that help us generally with our intake?
Well, I think that it's the nutrient composition. It's the antioxidants that in the degree of vitamins and things that will support the metabolism of the human body. For instance, things like carrots will support eye health. Ginger will support GI. And I don't know if they're trying to say the cayenne pepper will support brain health. There's fish oil, which kind of helps brain health.
Mhm.
There's the vitamins, which will support some metabolic things, part of which would be also the vision and the brain. So there are a lot of components in the natural food that we eat that will support the normal health. And I think it goes without saying that cutting back on processed foods is always ideal,
Mhm.
So that's the big thing here, that, try to stick with the natural things. Farmers market, try to cook healthy, and those are things that will support our growth, and cut back on the process because it contains some chemicals that may not augur too well for our body's metabolism.
Doctor, could you take a minute, if you would, and talk about your own personal story, your path from Ghana to medicine in the U.S.? And I raised the question because I've been to Ghana several times,
Oh,
and I love Ghana. I've been to Accra and Kumasi and Takoradi and Cape
nice.
Coast, and just have always had marvelous both feelings and memories of my experiences in Ghana.
Yeah.
So I had a smile when you said I'm from Ghana, went like this, So a
So,
good
well,
feeling, yeah.
I was born in Ghana. I was actually born in Kumasi, but I grew up in Accra with my
Mhm.
family. I am the first of 4. So I have a sister and I have 2 brothers.
Mhm.
And I went to school in Accra for the most part. I went to medical school in Kumasi. I graduated and then did the USMLEs. And so I had to pass all 4 exams. And then I came to Connecticut to do my residency with St. Mary's in Connecticut, which is a Yale affiliate. And then after that, I came to Minnesota to do my fellowship. So I came to do a fellowship in transfusion medicine at the U of M. And that's how we ended up here. I married my classmate, David. He's also, I don't know, my thing is blinking, but
Yeah, we've got some probably latency or either some connection, but we hear you fine. So please just go
okay.
ahead. We can hear
So
you.
I did do my fellowship at the U of M,
Mhm.
and my first job was for those that live in Minnesota, Duluth, actually. So we stayed in Duluth for a while, and then we moved back to Minneapolis when the kids were of school-going age, because we needed a little bit more diversity for them. And so, and then in 2017, so I've worked in various hospitals. I worked with Essentia Health, North Memorial, which I'm sort of still affiliated with, And then I've been in the Health Partners system. I've worked with Mayo. And then I started my practice in 2017 outpatient because I wanted a space where I could practice to promote, disease prevention and focus on wellness without the extra stress of, you have to see this number of patients to like push people through. And so, but it's also because I'm a mom and I have two girls, and I had both girls in a year. Like my first was 3 months when we realized that we were expecting again. I married, my husband is a physician too. So between the two of us, you'd think we would know better. But anyways, that happened. And so I got pregnant when Maya was 3 months. And so I had my girls January and December. So they're 11 months apart. And so most of the decisions that I've had to make was to try to be present as a mom, and which is why I ended up working in the hospital at night. And initially I had so many medical licenses. I traveled around taking, working, but starting the practice was also another way that I could be, stable and then have people come to me for care. So that was also one reason. Plus, I also wanted to be able to care for people that looked like me. So that was also another reason why I set up. So that's been my journey, really. Ghana to here and to private practice and still being part of mainstream. And we do a lot of community involvement with education. Like I have a nonprofit, Total Health Equity Project, and we try to do one community engagement program at least every quarter of the year. We do apply for grants. During the pandemic, we did a lot of work with African minorities for the most part. We see everyone. We provide immigration services, then weight loss, and I talked about community engagement. I've partnered with churches to go educate, on wellness, financial wellness. We're able to also, I got licensed in insurance. And so one of the things that we're also able to do, which, like I said, I always add financial wellness to what I do, especially for people trying to encourage some generational wealth and, healthy choices over the years and protection for the family. We do talk about, policies that can help protect the family as a unit, so you invest in either you're buying term care or you're buying some permanent policy that will generate something in future for your family. If God forbid the caregiver is able to, not able to, the caregiver is incapacitated in any way, so that's kind of my story. But I love being a mom. And so that's like, if you were to ask me the thing that I'm most proud of, I think I'm happy that in all the years, I've still been able to show up for my girls because they're very active, they work hard, and they're also basketball players. And that's a lot. They're going to be doing AAU soon. And that's like, actually, after today, I'm going for a game at Minnetonka. We're in Wajada, and they have a game, so I'm able to show up and cheer. So
Are they middle schoolers or high schoolers?
They are 10th and 9th grade.
Okay.
And so they're both playing. So my husband and I will try to show up. My husband, I married my classmate. He's a physician as well, but he put himself more on the corporate pathway. So he's able to work from home, but it's still, And so when I can't drive them to practices, he's there. So we've been able to support ourselves over the years and try to make things work as best as we can.
What a wonderful story. Well, we know that you had a slide presentation focusing on heart health. I'm going to ask if you'd come back because I want to hear that. I'm just so excited to be in your company and to hear this and to be guided by your wisdom and your story. So thank you.
Thank you. I think most of the things on that slide we probably touched on. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was specifically for dementia, and I think we talked about a lot of that. But I'll be happy to come back always.
And then I'd like to, from the Insight News point of view, partner with you in your quarterly activations. If we can help promote
Sure.
that, and help explain it and use that as a tool. Our mission, I'll say this and we'll close. My grandma used to always tell me, boy, your health is your business. And I think we need to sort of adopt that as a mantra in the community so that we all say that our health is our business, and the double entendre is intended. When she said it, it was like, mind your business. But the real meaning in that admonition, that instruction, is that there is business in health, that health itself is big business,
That's
and we
right.
need to be equity owners of the enterprise of our health and of the maintenance of healing in our community and therefore in the world, centering it on our story, our culture, and our intention to be the best human beings we can be. What
So
do you
just
think?
as we plan for our future, I think we need to plan for our health
Mhm.
and how we manage it. We all know that healthcare is extremely expensive in this country. So again, prevention is always better than putting yourself in a place where you have to be reactive. I should say that I'm just one of the few providers in Minneapolis who assess social security disability. And so there's so many stories that come up, where people look at your profession, look at what the weakness is. If you are in the labor intensive, know that back pain and degeneration is something that potentially could affect you in future. Make sure that you're lifting right, make sure you're setting yourself for success, so always pay attention to your profession as
We're out
well
of
as
time.
your
Thank you so
risks.
much.
You're
Thank you
very
so
welcome.
much.
And thank you for
Dr. B,
having me.
thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, thank you.
Thank you.
Closing word, Dr. B?
Oh, man.
Lisa,
I
you got to
think,
tell us about Saturday, tomorrow, Lisa.
yeah, thank you.
Unmute,
You're
Lisa.
muted, Lisa. Unmute.
Yes,
There
I
you
just
go.
want to quickly let everyone know that there's a conference coming up hosted by the African American Child Wellness Institute and in collaboration with the Alzheimer's Association called Rooted in Care, Dementia, Caregiving, and Culture. It's taking place this Saturday, February 21st from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at North Point Health and Wellness Center. It's at 1256 Penn Avenue North, and it's on the 5th floor in their conference rooms. I've secured all of the conference rooms on the 5th floor for this conference. So we're really excited about it. And it's a way to raise awareness of the African American Child Wellness Institute and our work in dementia and helping the community gain awareness of this disease.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, Dr. Grace. Take care.
Again, Dr. Grace. You
Bye-bye.
did great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm going to leave. There we go.
And we'll see you next time. Good.
Bye-bye.